You know, in Judaism, that's a job. That's a clergy job. Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing our call to worship for the beauty of the earth, hymn number 21 in our gray hymnal, Singing the Living Tradition.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight, source of all, thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour, of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, source of all, to thee this our hymn of grateful praise. For the human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild, source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Once again, welcome to Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We are so glad to be together in this loving, vibrant community. Whoever you are and wherever you come from, for this hour, we here are one gathered congregation, and all are welcome. My name is Genevieve Emmett, and in the spirit of KUUF's mission, as a part of our ever-growing welcome, I offer you this self-description. I identify as a neurodivergent, white, cisgendered 44-year-old straight woman with long curly brown hair. I am wearing a dark flowered dress and a black cardigan. Our worship leader this morning is Rabbi Emily Katcher. Rabbi Katcher has been leading and teaching in the Jewish communities for over 20 years. She has served as a Cantorial Soloist, a Songleader, a teacher, an education director, and as rabbi for congregations across the Puget Sound area. She is now rabbi of the congregation Beth Hatikvah in Bremerton, Washington. I would like to welcome any visitors. If you are here in person, we all look forward to welcoming you outside after the service. I invite you to follow along in your order of service. For those of you who are attending virtually, all the links of the service, including our order of service, are on our website and in this morning's worship service email. If you are here in the sanctuary this morning, please silence all your electronic devices. The announcements are available on our website, www.kuuf.org, or in our weekly email newsletter, The Candle. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, basket weavers, the Suquamish live in harmony with the lands and waterways along the Washington Central Salish Sea, as they have for thousands of years. Here, the Suquamish live and protect the lands and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. We welcome Lynn and Gary Brownlee to come up and light our chalice. Gary and Lynn Brownlee have lived in the Pacific Northwest for years and have recently settled on the Key Peninsula. They are wondering why it took them so long to get here. They enjoy hiking, gardening, exploring, and getting to know the area. In their free time, they help out at Long Branch Improvement Club and the Mustard Seed Project. Now join me in lighting our chalice. If you have your own chalice at home or a candle, please light it as I read our chalice lighting words. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Passover Haggadah. Please join me in the spoken affirmation. The words will appear on the screen. We gather as a caring community, seeking life's deeper meanings. We value diversity and affirm the worth of all living things. We strive to speak truth in love, to act for justice, to grow in spirit, and to care for the earth. We celebrate with open hearts and minds the creative power that sustains and transforms us. Our next hymn is Abide With Me. The words were written by a 19th century Scot, Henry Francis Lyte. He set his lyrics to an English tune written by Henry Monk. There are two stories of what inspired these lyrics. The first was that Henry Lyte wrote them while he lay dying of tuberculosis. He passed away about a month later. The second story is that he wrote this hymn after visiting a dying friend who asked him to abide with me. Either way, this hymn can give us comfort and hope. Please rise now in body and or in spirit to join in singing hymn 101, Abide With Me, in our gray hymnal.
Hills
Now, Melinda Hughes, our Director of Religious Education, will share our time for all ages.
Thank you. Good morning. It is so good to be here this morning and to see you. I know there are some people who have overcome some challenges to get here today, and I'm glad you're with us. I just wanted to share, because I am up here, that the children I've mentioned before are now using a curriculum called Soul Matters. And Soul Matters is a thematic approach. And our theme this month is delight. So if you are so inclined after the service out on the board to the, facing that way, the left, I hung up all the quotes. I've been posting on our KUUF friends and members chat on Facebook. And this morning I posted a playlist that was pretty good. I listened to it on the way here, very uplifting. So if you have access to that Facebook group, you can click and listen on Spotify or YouTube. Anyway, just want to shout that out. And with that, our theme for delight, today's story is Suki's Kimono. This is a story of a little girl who dances to her own drum beat, illustrating the diversity of delight. Suki's Kimono. On the first day of school, Suki wanted to wear her kimono. Her sisters did not approve. "You can't wear that," said Mari. "People will think you're weird." "You can't wear that," said Yumi. "Everyone will laugh and no one will play with you." "You need something new, Suki. You need something cool." But Suki shook her head. She didn't care for new. She didn't care for cool. She wanted to wear her favorite thing. And her favorite thing was her kimono. Suki's Oba-chan had given her the kimono. The first time Suki wore it, her Oba-chan took her to a street festival where they slurped bowls of slippery, cold somen noodles and shared a cone of crunchy shaved ice topped with a sweet red bean sauce. Under strings of paper lanterns, Suki joined her Oba-chan in a circle dance. She followed her and copied her movements, trying to be as light and as graceful. She watched the other women and children who danced, especially those who were dressed in cotton kimonos like hers. Later, Suki sat so close to the stage that when the taiko drummers performed, boom, 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 she felt like she'd swallowed a ball of thunder, and her whole insides quaked and quivered. Before they left the festival, Suki and her Oba-chan stopped at a souvenir stand. There were many things to choose from, but her Oba-chan found the prettiest thing of all, a handkerchief of pale pink linen, decorated with tiny maple leaves and cherry blossoms. When she gave it to Suki, she said, "This will help you remember our day." Now it was time for school. Mother checked Suki's obi one last time and took a picture of Mari, Yuki, Yumi, and Suki together by the front steps. Then, as she watched, the three sisters made their way down the block to their school. Mari and Yumi stayed several paces ahead of Suki and pretended they didn't know her. But Suki didn't mind. She turned and waved to her mother before she clip-clocked along in her shiny red geta, feeling very pleased in her fan-patterned blue kimono. Once in a while, Suki would lift her arms and let the butterfly sleeves flutter in the breeze. It made her feel like she'd grown her own set of wings. When they reached the school, Mari and Yumi hurried across the yard to a group of their friends. Suki stopped and looked around. Some of the children turned and stared at her, and others giggled and pointed at her kimono. But Suki ignored them. She took a seat on a swing to wait for the bell. A girl, dressed in overalls, just like a pair Suki had at home, sat on the swing beside her. "Hi, Suki," said the girl. "Hi, Penny," said Suki. "How come you're dressed so funny?" Penny asked. "Where did you get those shoes?" Suki lifted her feet off of the sand and wiggled her toes. "I'm not dressed funny," she said. "My grandma gave me these shoes." Suki started pumping her legs. After a moment, Penny did the same, and soon they were both swinging as fast and as high as they could. Swoosh, swoosh, up and up. When the bell rang, Suki and Penny jumped off their swings and ran to the gym for the first day assembly. Once they were finally taken to their new classroom, Suki chose a desk near the window. Penny chose a desk next to Suki. As they waited for everyone to find a seat, two boys in front of Suki turned and snickered behind their hands. One of the boys reached over and snatched at Suki's sleeve. "Look at this," he said. "She's a bat." Suki felt her cheeks burn, but she did not respond. Instead, she concentrated on sitting up straight and tall, the way her obi-chan always did. It was easy to do with an obi wrapped snug around her middle. Her obi was gold and yellow, and in its folds, Suki had tucked away her pale pink handkerchief. "Welcome to first grade," said the teacher. "My name is Mrs. Paggio." She smiled. "Let's introduce ourselves and tell everyone what we did this summer." When it was her turn to speak, Suki stood up and told the teacher her name. "Hello, Suki," said Mrs. Paggio. "What did you do this summer?" "My grandma visited us," she said, straightening her sleeves. "She brought me my kimono and my gita." She raised her foot to show the teacher her wooden clog. Somewhere in the classroom, someone laughed, but Suki took a deep breath and continued. "The best thing was that she took me to a festival, and there were dancing girls dressed like me, and they danced like this." She took a few steps and swayed her arms sideways. "Look, now she's dancing," someone said, but Suki didn't hear. She hummed the music she remembered hearing at the festival. She remembered how it felt to dance barefoot in the open air and on fresh grass that tickled her toes. She tried to picture the other dancers, how they moved forward in the circle with the rhythm of the music, how they stamped their feet, first right, then left, swung their arms, first up, then down, how they stepped back and back and back, then clapped. When Suki couldn't remember the next step, she made it up, just to keep dancing. 1, 2, 1, 2, stop. When she finished, the room seemed very quiet. Everyone was watching her. Suki sat down, wondering if she was in trouble. But Mrs. Paggio said, "That was wonderful, Suki," and she started to clap. Then, so did Penny. After a moment, so did the entire class. After school, as the three sisters walked home together, Mari and Yumi grumbled about their first day. "No one even noticed my new sweater," said Mari. "No one even noticed my cool shoes," said Yumi. But Suki just smiled. Then she clip-clopped along behind them. Suki pulled out the pale pink handkerchief from her obi and held it up over her head to catch the wind. And in her blue cotton kimono and in her shiny red geta, Suki danced all the way home. So this book is part of the Soul Matters curriculum. It was selected, they have a Widening the Circle team to be more inclusive, to dismantle systemic racism. And so this was a book intentionally chosen because it teaches children that there are different things that delight people, and everyone's authentic self brings the most delight to everyone. So thank you for being here this morning. Now please join in singing our children along their way.
We gather as a religious community to give each one of us a place where we can do the work of many. Together, our light is much brighter than a solitary flame. Now is the time in our service where we share in the sacred act of giving, an expression of gratitude transformed into generosity that breathes life into our mission. As a part of our mission that inspires us to act on our beliefs, we share our weekly offering with a local nonprofit agency providing services within our larger community. Our charitable giving recipient for the month of June is the local chapter of the NAACP. In a moment, our ushers will move around us with baskets collecting the offering. Donations placed in the basket will go to our local chapter of the NAACP. If you would like your offering to be used for KUUF, please use one of the envelopes provided to you in your order of service when you came into the sanctuary. For those of us joining online, you may go to our website, kuuf.org, and select the Giving tab for PayPal and mailing information. If this is your first time at KUUF, feel free to let the basket pass you by. Your presence is your gift. Let there be an offering to strengthen and sustain our community, which is sacred to so many of us. Let us enjoy a gift of music from our music coordinator, Brian Kenny. He will play Do It Again by George Gershwin. Now is our time for our joys and sorrows. When shared together, our joys are amplified and our sorrows lessened. We have a joy from Megan Shepard. Her joy is that a donation from Kitsap Harvest means that lots of eggs, peppers, and tomatoes are available for anyone who wants to take them home. And we have a joy from Eric Jensen and Tina Mitchell that their youngest daughter, Ella, turns 19 tomorrow. Wow. Not allowed. And then we light one last candle for those joys and sorrows that are still too tender to share. please join me in a moment of prayer or intention. In the spirit of community in which we find strength and common purpose, we share our joys, our sorrows, our hopes, and dreams. We have turned our minds and hearts towards one another in trust, giving love, seeking comfort, and celebrating together. We are part of the web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. In all the moments of our lives, for those loved ones and events shared here this morning, and those which we yet hold in the silence of our hearts, we are truly grateful for the love and support of this beloved community. May the spirit of life and love bring peace to us all. Amen, and blessed be. Please remain seated while we sing Spirit of Life, hymn 123 in our gray hymnal. The words will appear on your screen. Now, please join me in a moment of reflection, followed by our post-reflection music, I'll Build a Stairway to Paradise by George Gershwin.
Thank you, Gershwin. Thank you, Brian Kenny. I feel like following that, I need to say, Brian Kenny, ladies and gentlemen. That was stunning. In your tradition, the way that you have done this, and I have just learned today, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Rabbi Emily Katcher, and I am a 58-year-old white cis female with long fuzzy gray hair, but wearing a suit, and a kippah, which is a Jewish head covering that is my rabbi drag. Where to begin? Whenever I start to teach any group of people, often my go-to is to ask them what they already know. They might know some things about the thing that I bring. Now, I'm saving my Q&A for our adult education, but right now, I want to answer to you an unasked question about what I might already know. When you announced the hymns, for the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the sky, it's wonderful because I plan to talk to you about Jewish text, to talk about the work of creation, to talk about the text of our great creation narrative. And in the spirit of the idea of source, the idea of center, when you play for the beauty of the earth and the splendor of the sky, not only is that symbolic language which speaks to me as a Jew, which resonates for many of us who have grown up with that narrative in different ways, but it also touched my heart and it brought me back to my childhood. I was raised Unitarian Universalist, and it is for that reason that I know you will speak my language. I do not have to be afraid of misunderstandings. I'm here to share with you, not only to tell you what I have learned as a Jew over these past 30 years and then becoming a rabbi, but also to share my gratitude for my origins. I learned as a Unitarian child that difference and uniqueness and being part of a minority religion was a blessing, that it was a beautiful gift that I brought with me into the world at all times. I learned about humans as a meaning-making animal. I learned that our worlds of meaning overlap with one another and interact with one another, and we see the other person's world of meaning, and we are sometimes inspired and moved and touched, and sometimes a little bit weirded out. There are a lot of weird worlds of meaning in this universe. On the other hand, as my father would tell me, a lay leader in our Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, he would say, well, you have to remember that to other people, what you believe is odd, what you do is different. They just might not understand. I was brought up with the norm of talking about meaning and the freedom to be flexible in understanding what a world of meaning is, and to be flexible about, most importantly, for someone who became a Jew. I was taught about the personal, private nature and openness of the God concept. I found out that the God that many people in my world did not believe in was not the same as the one that some other people did believe in. There was a diversity of understanding. I knew the word transcendentalism from the time I was a child, and I will tell you the idea of the non-corporeal transcendent God is my native tongue. In Judaism, our foundational text is very hard to define, and I will tell you why. Many people who are not Jewish have a basic understanding of Old Testament as being Jewish Bible, Jewish scriptures. Most people know that. There are some who are confused and think that Christian Bible is part of ours, but it is not. And I remember this from my childhood, that many people don't understand that many Unitarians, I don't want to say most, but many Unitarians are also not Christians. Many are, but many are not. That was a very difficult thing to communicate to people in the big world, but it served me well because I spend a lot of time explaining that the Jewish Bible is made of the Old Testament. So would I say that is our foundational text? I don't think I would. Jewish foundational texts are interactive and associative. They are horizontal, and they talk to one another. Many of us have heard, we've experienced in our lives, people who take their foundational religious text written in ancient times in a foreign land by ancient people in a language they do not read. And they tell you what it says here. And that is a challenge if you're a Jew. We, like other religions, like other big tent religions, like Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, everybody, have a wide diversity of human beings participating in our world of meaning. We have human beings who are very, very strict and care a lot about purity. And then we have human beings who are very, very open and flexible and care about justice. And that, to my mind, is a much more accurate description of the varieties of religious experience in America. We may have different symbols, allegories, God concepts, but really, we have the people who want to be very separate, and we have the people who want to be in community. This is a challenge. So what that means is that as a young American person, when I read those first lines of the great Jewish creation story, Bereshit bara Elohim, at creation commenced the Holy One of Blessing to start to create the universe, the planet. When I read that, I read this literal English King James translation from way back in the day in England in a land I do not know. And I have to remember that what those people are bringing to translation is their own idea, their own ethics, their own beliefs, and they want to have that context, to hang on to it, to serve whichever group or thing that they are doing. This is what human beings do. When we come to any text, Dickens, Dostoevsky, we bring our world of meaning, belief, history, time, self, society, we bring that to text. It is impossible to look at an ancient, formative, great narrative, the great narratives that carry a life, and to say, there is only one place to put this. There is only one way to look at this. And one of the things I love about Judaism is that Judaism teaches that Torah, And when we say Torah, we don't just mean the Torah. We mean the great body of Jewish literature. When we say that Torah has 70 faces, does that mean there are exactly 70 interpretations? No, it does not. Usually 70 is a very symbolic number, meaning a lot. And that no matter how many you know, someone else will come along and give you another. It's often a very amusing and interesting thing for non-Jews to hear that even our most fundamentalist groups discuss Jewish law. They talk about it, they process it, they argue it, and what's more, they keep writing about it. Our great body of Jewish practice, law, culture is called Talmud. And the way it works is this, on one foot. The way it works is that there is an ancient mythic document called Torah, our collection of our primary narratives, and the tale of our society coming into being. And like all great mythic narratives, it tells us what is most important about who we are and how we see the world. It doesn't have to be literal. And on top of that Torah, there are then the prophets, people noticing the world and being mad that people aren't stepping into line. People noticing that ethics should be a thing, and people noticing that they want society to be a particular way. We go forward in history, and we take those two books, those prophets and the Torah, and we go forward into history, and we write some more. And we are exiled to a place that is not centered in a place. And in the ancient world, for your tribe to not have a home and to be away from its central place of worship where your God certainly lives. What does that mean? What does that mean? What it means is that for us, the people who were exiled and they were in Babylon, perhaps you have heard the Bob Marley song, By the Waters of Babylon. It's a song of exile and pain. What do we do? It's not just a song about, I want to go back to that place. It is a place of existential crisis. What do we do? And those people did something revolutionary. They said, well, if we have no home for God, and we're not in charge in this strange place, is there still God? They asked. And what it caused them to do was to have to reimagine their God concept. They had to open it up to the idea of maybe God is transcendent. Maybe there is a dimension we don't understand. Maybe this is connected to our nascent idea of the soul. Maybe. Those maybes become Jewish law. What will become our Talmud begins as, there is no temple, what should we do? And the rabbis respond, you should pray. Well, yeah, but we're supposed to go at certain times and on certain days, and we're supposed to make sacrifices. Yeah, but you should just pray. That's great. But what about all the sacrifices? Do it at the same time as the sacrifices. Your sacrifice of words is now the way that we will connect with this transcendent God that is beyond our understanding. And we will start to talk to our children about this transcendence, hopefully in a way they can understand. And when we return, because there is a return, when we return, certainly we will resume all the wonderful rituals that we have done over centuries. Certainly we will return to those ancient things, said the people in Bavel. But we will hold in our hearts what we have learned. That the God concept is beyond our understanding, beyond name, and transcendent. It opened up our eyes from the place of straight ahead and all around us to beyond. That's how Jewish law works. It looks at what is in an ancient text, so old we don't know who wrote it or where it came from. We have theories, but we don't know. And we say, that's not how it is anymore. What shall we do? How do we address this? Now, obviously, we have a whole scope of history that changes the way that people interact with this tradition. We have people reacting strongly one way and reacting strongly another way. And all of these things build the diversity of the world of meaning of Judaism, and they cause us to be in conflict with one another and with our neighbors, and sometimes they cause us to come together and be together. It all depends. So why, if we are moving forward like that, do we reach back into history? Because history happened and it's real and it's true. Because stories have been told over and over again. Let me tell you a story of the Baal Shem Tov, who was one of our great thinkers of Judaism back in the 17th century. The Baal Shem Tov said, there was a great rabbi, and the people of his village would come to him and they would say, Rabbi, our village is in danger. And the rabbi would go to a special place in the forest and would light a little fire in a particular way and would say a particular prayer, and the village would be saved from danger. When that rabbi was no longer alive, the next rabbi came to take his place and said, the people came to him and they said, Rabbi, the village is in danger. And the rabbi said, I know where to go in the forest. And I know how to light the fire, but I can't find that prayer anywhere. It was unique. I will go to the forest and light the fire, and I'll say a prayer. And he did, and the village was saved. After he passed, a new rabbi came, and the people came and they said, Rabbi, Rabbi, our village is in trouble. And he says, I know where that place in the forest is. I am not sure how to light that fire, and I certainly don't know where the prayer is, but I'll do my best. And he went to that place in the forest, and the village was saved. After his death, the next rabbi came, and the villagers came to him when they were in trouble, and they said, Rabbi, Rabbi, our village is in trouble. And he said, I do not know where the place in the forest is. I do not know how to light the special fire, and I do not know the words to the prayer. But I know the story, and that has to be enough. And Baruch Hashem, it was enough, and the village was saved. And we tell that story to remind us that this is why the earth was created, because God loves stories. Our stories tell us who we are and the way we remember them and the memories we associate with them, our personal narratives, our ancient and vast library of literature. They come to teach us about our great stories and to layer them and to add to them And so when we teach about creation and we say, Bereshit bara Elohim, God began the process of creation, we have a million ways of thinking about that, about what that could mean and why it goes the way it does. And I notice when I look at all creation stories that the order in which we do things, the way that the world is created, who is involved, who the actors are in all of our stories, it starts us out with the basic source, the idea of what is source. What are our core ideas? And what we notice is that every time in the Torah, God makes something, as God does each day, for 6 days, if you recall. Each time something is created, God, the Holy One of Blessing, Hashem, we have many names for God because God's name is not sayable. It's just letters. So we have nicknames. Every time something is created, every day, God completes it by saying that it is good. Not only that it's so, but that it is good. God doesn't say it is dirty. God doesn't say it's impure. God doesn't say, well, that's nasty. Heaven will be way better. God says this is good and creates all the creatures. And along with the creatures, just like with the same day as all the animals we notice, the Holy One of Blessing creates humans. Now, if you are familiar with Torah, and I hope to make you more so after this, you will know that there are 2 creation stories, one right after the other. And they have different vibes and different ideas. But this first one, the ancient story, says that human beings are created, Adam, earthling. It's from the word for dirt, for soil. Earthling is much more accurate. The earthling is created. God creates them, in the plural. Male and female, he creates them. Not him, them. Male and female are the words in Hebrew, meaning masculine characteristics, feminine characteristics that they have. And the most important idea is that human beings, the earthling, are created B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of the Holy One. Every one of us. So we have learned so far that creation is good and beautiful, and we also learn that all human beings have worth and are created in the image of their Creator. Their image is the source of beauty and holiness, no matter what that image is. It may look different to each of us because of who we're used to hanging around with, maybe. But no matter what, the beauty of holiness shines from the soul of the human being. Then, not only are human beings blessed and told to go and make more humans, just like the animals are told to go make more animals, and the bugs are told to make more bugs. But we have to get busy. We have to get busy. No one is just sitting there waiting for creation. We have to be in it. We are vital actors in the act of creation all the time, every day. A great rabbi, Rabbi Ed Feinstein, was saying that, I heard him speak, and he was talking about one of his students, and he says, this happens in Hebrew schools all over America, that a student comes to him, and they have time in the rabbi's office, time with the rabbi. It's part of religious school. And of course, some kid is horsing around and acting crazy and says, "Rabbi, what's the meaning of life?" And I want to quote Rabbi Ed Feinstein, because the way he tells the story changes. He's laughing. He says, "What's the meaning of life?" And he laughs. And he says, "The children are laughing at their rabbi, and they think I have posed the question my rabbi cannot answer because no one knows the meaning of life." And the rabbi says, "The meaning of life is that humans are created to continue the work of creation. We are here to build our families with one another, to love one another and connect, and to build a society that is worthy of the spark of holiness that we all carry." Now, in the next part of our story, things will get more complicated, and there's going to be a lot to talk about. But before we need to talk about that, we need to look at uniqueness and specialness and the world. The next step in our great story begins to define the unique relationship between the Hebrew people, because, to be honest, there weren't any Jews until about the Roman Empire. We were Israelites, we were Judeans. But our unique connection to the divine via literature, via word, via told story, via shared experience, begins to be built. Now, in ancient times, in the age of ancient empires, we remember that each tribe had to steel themselves against the possible incursion of another tribe. Life was nasty, brutish, and short. And yet, among the things we learn when we read the Torah, especially when we read the story of Hagar and Ishmael, we learn that there are other tribes in the world, and they are just fine. Jews don't come to your door and ask you to become a Jew. We are fine with you. There are some people who have a concept that the dangerous, and imminently exploding world is so fraught with peril that they must have life rafts available for all the lost and helpless people. But sometimes they have a hard time understanding that we often have our own lifeboats. I have a boat which carries me through struggle and which carries my life. My world of meaning carries me, as does yours. I don't feel that mine has to compare to yours, or that yours has to compare to mine. One of the beautiful things about being Jewish is that everybody gets to go to heaven. It's very complex. I wrote a whole thesis about it, don't you remember? But I digress. My gratitude to Unitarianism made me the rabbi that I am. I learned by all my rabbis over 30 years, 40 years, and was informed by them and uplifted by them. But I was also taught by Dr. Chris Schreiner, Dr. Bob Ross. When I open the hymnal, it's newer than I remember, right? I was looking at the one from the 70s. but the beauty of the earth and the splendor of the skies are familiar tunes to me. I know those and I sang them in choir. And they come to me when I learn Torah. You know, in Judaism, we don't, in Hebrew rather, we don't have a separate word for learning and teaching. Those are the same word. And when we say, perhaps students might say, or teachers might say, who are you studying with? Who are you teaching, Rabbi? Who's in your class? Instead, we would say, who are you learning with? As students, what rabbi are you learning with? I'm learning with so-and-so. Because the idea has to be that the direct interaction between people dealing with these ideas brings learning to us all, and it expands us. And when someone doesn't know something, if they are in the room with active learners with one another, they will get it. They are invited. So when I brought my world to Bereshit bara Elohim for the beauty of the earth and the splendor of the skies, I knew about the truth and beauty inherent in creation, in the spark of all humanity, and for unfathomable awe. And I knew that I was allowed to search for it where I found it, and I was allowed to bring it back. And I was allowed to sit with it, and that I was allowed to build my world of meaning in a way that I might say someday to my own congregation, you come too. I invite you to join me at Adult Ed afterward, and we now rise as we are able for the closing hymn, which is 1018.
Where I'm bound, there'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. Where I'm bound, there'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. Where I'm bound, there'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. Where I'm bound, there'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. Where I'm bound, there'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. Where I'm bound, there'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
Am I doing closing? Yes, I am. Yeah, I believe I am. yes. I did it. All right, so I'm going to say, after the service is over, please exit through the foyer. Coffee and tea will be served in the breezeway between our two buildings. You are welcome to bring your beverage and snacks back into the building if you wish. And oh, I am speaking at adult education class after the worship service. I'm doing this thing, and we shall do it together, and it will be beautiful. And now our closing words. Our closing words are from Yeshaya, from Isaiah 55. For you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. The mountains and the hills before you shall burst into song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Nice job, you guys. That was super beautiful. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you for that was